On January 28, 2026, a guy named Matt Schlicht launched a social network. He had never written a single line of code in his life. He described what he wanted to an AI, and the AI built it. The platform went viral overnight. Elon Musk called it the very early stages of the singularity. Andrej Karpathy, one of the founders of OpenAI, said it was the most incredible thing he had seen in years. 3 days later, security researchers hacked into the entire database in under 3 minutes. 1.5 million authentication tokens, 35,000 email addresses, every private message on the platform, all exposed. The app worked perfectly. It just had one setting the AI never configured, and the founder never knew to check. This is the story of AI app building in 2026. Both sides of it. That founder, Matt Schlicht, was doing something that now has an official name. Andrej Karpathy, the same man who praised Moltbook, had coined the term just months earlier. Vibe coding. Give the AI high-level instructions. Forget the code exists. Let the machine do the rest. Collins Dictionary named it Word of the Year for 2025. And overnight, it became the hottest narrative in tech, the era of the non-technical founder. No degree, no developer, just an idea and a chat box. What we are going to do today is stress test that narrative with real numbers, real failures, and real people, both the ones who made it work and the ones who never saw the wall coming. First, the scale. Because you need to feel how big this already is. The vibe coding market is estimated at $4.7 billion in 2026, projected to hit $12.3 billion by 2027. Lovable, one AI app builder, is generating $400 million in annual revenue and launching 100,000 new projects every single day. Replate grew 2,352% year over year. Cursor, an AI code editor, went from $0 to $1 billion in revenue in roughly 2 years, the fastest business-to-business scaling on record. Wix paid $80 million for a no-code startup called Base44 that had existed for exactly 6 months. And none of these are primarily developer tools. 63% of the people using these platforms have no coding background whatsoever. They are marketers, nurses, teachers, restaurant owners, people who had an idea and, for the first time in history, had something to do with it. By the end of 2026, Gartner projects that 75% of all new applications will be built with low-code or no-code tools. 6 years ago, that number was 25%. The tools driving this shift: Lovable and Bolt.new for AI-generated full-stack web apps, Cursor for developers who want AI inside a real code editor, FlutterFlow and Adalo for mobile apps, Bubble for complex logic, GitHub Copilot, now used by 90% of Fortune 100 companies with 4.7 million paid subscribers. This is not a trend. It is a category shift. Software creation is being redistributed. But here's what that redistribution looks like up close, and it's not what the ADS are showing you. Let's be precise about what these tools actually produce. You describe a booking system for a yoga studio. Within 30 minutes, literally, this has been tested, you have a working interface, a database, user login, and something you can show a real customer. 72% of users on low-code platforms build a working application in 3 months or less. Traditional development takes 6 to 12 months. For validation, for testing whether your idea has any market at all, AI builders are genuinely extraordinary. But there's a concept called the 80% problem, coined by venture firm Andreessen Horowitz, and it describes every AI builder equally. These platforms get you 80% of the way there with remarkable speed. The last 20%, custom logic, unusual integrations, edge cases, is where the AI runs out of runway and you run out of prompts. And then there's the App Store question. Because most people typing into these tools are imagining an iPhone app, a tile on someone's home screen. Here's the reality. The most popular AI builders, Lovable, Bolt.new, Base44, produce web apps. Functional, fast, impressive web apps. but you cannot submit them to the Apple App Store or Google Play as native applications. That's a completely different category. For a genuine native mobile app, your realistic options in 2026 are FlutterFlow and Adalo, both of which can publish to both stores, but both require more setup, more decisions, and more patience with Apple's review process. Apple charges $99 per year for a developer account. Google charges $25 one time. But Apple has 26 documented reasons to reject your app, and getting through review can take anywhere from 24 hours to 3 weeks. If your app handles health data, payments, or targets users under 13, the compliance layer becomes a project in itself. Most first-time builders don't know any of this until they're staring at a rejection email at midnight. That's the gap between the narrative and the reality, and it gets wider when you look at what these apps are actually doing with your users' data. Moltbook wasn't a freak accident, it was a preview. In May 2026, Israeli cybersecurity firm Red Access scanned apps built on the 4 most popular vibe coding platforms: Lovable, Replit, Base44, and Netlify. They found 380,000 apps sitting publicly accessible on the open web. Of those, 5,000 were actively leaking sensitive data. Medical records, financial documents, corporate files, private conversations, all exposed, not through a sophisticated cyber attack, but because nobody had set the right configuration. Red Access Chief Executive Officer Dors V called it one of the biggest involuntary exposures of corporate information in history. And the deeper data is just as stark. Researchers at Escape scanned 5,600 vibe-coded apps and found over 2,000 high-impact vulnerabilities, 400 exposed API keys and credentials, 175 instances of personal data leaking directly through app endpoints. Every single one was a live production system with real users inside. CodeRabbit's analysis found that AI-generated code carries 1.7 times more major issues and 2.74 times higher security vulnerability rates than human-written code. A separate 2026 audit found that 45% of AI-generated code contains high-risk security flaws. But here's the number that should stop you cold. A Stanford randomized controlled trial found that developers using AI tools wrote less secure code than those who did not, while simultaneously reporting higher confidence in their code's security. The tool makes you feel safer while making you less safe. The average cost of a data breach in 2025 was $4.4 million. The second your app goes public, the second it holds someone's email address, password, or payment details, that number belongs in your planning. None of this means do not build. It means build differently than the tutorial told you to. Can you make money? Yes, but let's be specific about how. Sabrine Matos is real, a growth marketer with no engineering degree who built Plan Key, a women's safety app, entirely on Lovable. $456,000 in annual recurring revenue in year 1. Remote OK, a niche job board built on no-code foundations, generates over $2.5 million a year. In the first half of 2025 alone, generative AI apps recorded 1.7 billion downloads, with in-app purchase revenue nearly doubling to $1.9 billion. The money is there. But look at who is actually capturing it. Every successful case shares the same pattern. The builder had deep expertise in the problem before they touched a tool. Sabrine was not a developer who learned marketing. She was a marketer who found a safety problem she understood viscerally. The tool was the last step, not the first. When building becomes cheap, knowing what to build becomes the competitive advantage. That does not come from AI. The apps that fail, and most do, fail in the market, not in the code. Wrong audience, no validation, pricing that does not work. These are not technical problems. What actually works? In 2026, start with a niche you already live in. Find 10 people who would pay before you build anything. Begin with a web app. Skip App Store complexity until paying users demand it. Budget $50 to $200 per month for platform costs. And treat version 1 as a test, not a launch. The biggest mistake is not technical. It is building something nobody asked for, then blaming the AI when nobody shows up. Now for the question everyone's actually asking but nobody wants to answer directly. Are professional developers in trouble? In the United States, overall programmer employment fell 27.5% between 2023 and 2025. Employment for software developers aged 22 to 25 declined nearly 20% from its late 2022 peak. Entry-level job postings are down 28% and haven't recovered. Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff confirmed publicly that his company cut its support team from 9,000 to 5,000 people and hired 0 new engineers in fiscal year 2026. These are not projections. They already happened. But here's the split. The headline numbers hide. For developers over 30, employment in the same AI-exposed categories grew between 6% and 12% over the same period. AI eliminated the jobs that looked like tasks. It expanded the jobs that looked like judgment. The entry-level role, write this function, fix this bug, implement this spec, that role is being automated. The senior role, understand the product, talk to the user, make the call when 3 things conflict at once, that role is more valuable than ever. And ironically, the non-developers who succeed with AI tools are doing exactly the same thing, thinking like product people, not like coders. The tool changed. The skill that matters didn't. So here's where we actually land. Can you build a real app with AI? Yes. Can you make money from it? Some people will. The ones who understand that the hard part was never writing the code. Is it safe? Not by default. Not without deliberate choices that most tutorials skip entirely. And are developers in danger? The ones who only knew how to write code, yes. The ones who know what the code is supposed to do. And why? They're fine. The narrative says, anyone can build an app now. That's true. What it leaves out is the rest of the sentence. Anyone can build an app. Not everyone can build one worth using.